Welcome to another video trail guide brought to you by the Anchorage Park Foundation. I'm William, and today we're going to be telling you everything you need to know about floating Campbell Creek in Anchorage, Alaska. Let's get started. Campbell Creek runs through the heart of Anchorage. There are many places to start out, but we'll be focusing on putting in at Campbell Park and floating down to either Taku Lake for a shorter trip or Emerald Hills Park just before you get to Campbell Lake for a longer one. If you do the full float to Emerald Hills Park, it's 6.1 miles and takes 3 to 5 hours depending on your stops. We staged a car at the Emerald Hills parking lot and then shuttled to Campbell Creek Park. My friends Allie and Meredith parked at the Peanut Farm parking lot and met me along the way.
Campbell Creek is very much an urban creek in the fact that it runs right through Anchorage, right through some of our busiest spots in Anchorage. It's really beautiful. You'll see lots of trees. You might even see some wildlife if you're lucky.
To float Campbell Creek, it's important that you have a boat that's capable of navigating around obstacles in the river. This typically means either a pack raft or a river kayak that can paddle you out of the ways of trees, strainers, and sweepers. Beyond that, make sure you're dressed appropriately for the weather, which can be quick dry clothing and rain gear or a dry suit. And most importantly, make sure you've got your PFD. We also recommend a first aid kit, a change of clothes, and everything that's essential like your cell phone and your car keys in a waterproof bag that's attached to your boat. Before heading out for the day, I met up with Aaron Leggett to discuss the cultural significance and history of Campbell Creek in Anchorage, Alaska.
So right now we are along Campbell Creek, as it's known in English, and in Dena'ina it's known as Keen-Chagitnu. Keen-Chagitnu means Crying Ridge Creek. The reason it's called Crying Ridge Creek is that if you follow the creek up to its headwaters, it goes by Keen-Chagi, Crying Ridge, which in English is known as Dena'ina Peak. Campbell Creek was one of the waterways here in Anchorage that the Dena'ina used, especially towards the mouth of the creek for summer fish camps, hunting, trapping, berry picking. But hopefully people are starting to appreciate the fact that we have these urban creeks and that salmon still do return to them. But certainly go out and enjoy them, explore them. I mean, I think these really are an asset for our community, and recognize that these are important places both in the past and hopefully well into the future.
After hopping in my boat, I floated from Campbell Park down to the Peanut Farm put in to meet up with my friends Allie and Meredith with the Anchorage Park Foundation.
It was the best day of work ever.
So Allie and I met you at Peanut Farm.
A nice spot to put in where there's a little eddy and you're not fighting the creek as soon as you get in the water.
It also seems like a good spot because if you wanted to get food or drinks before you could, or the shuttle after, it would be right there.
Arctic Roadrunner is another place a little further down the creek. Either of those locations are a great pit stop if you're having a full day float with some friends.
Campbell Creek is definitely an escape to nature, a place right in the middle of town where you could go. I mean, there were several times where we felt like when it's just grass and trees on either side, and maybe you see a house, maybe you don't, you can't hear any cars. It's such a peaceful place, literally in the middle of town. And how unique is that, and how wonderful is that? You want to be sure to go with somebody you know, who's done it before. Be sure you know what your emergency plan might be if you needed help. You want to be sure everybody knows what to do if they were to fall out of their boat and how we're going to help each other. If you are new to boating, I would first encourage you to take a class. Alaska is unique because our water is very cold. The cold water adds an extra element of danger that you just need to really be aware of.
It's a pretty easy float. I'm pretty new to river sports, so for me it was class 1, class 2.
The thing about creeks versus rivers is they're much more narrow and they can move very quick. Even if it looks shallow, the water can be moving very quickly.
The bridges, you were pretty close to the bridges when you were going under, and the water was moving a bit faster.
With that, it causes obstacles in the river that can become dangerous to a human.
So strainers are logs that are in the water that you might have to navigate around so that you don't get caught in them.
Water might go through it, but you and your boat are not going to go through it. So you want to always be aware of logs and anything else that might show up in the river, and constantly looking downstream for them because they can be very dangerous if you can't avoid it.
My first advice would be definitely to float it in either a pack raft or a river kayak.
And if you're in a just fun inner tube that I bought at the grocery store, bump into a rock, it might pop, and then all of a sudden now you're floating in the creek.
On a nice, hot, sunny day, sometimes you can see 2 or 3 dozen people floating it throughout the day. So it's pretty popular. And then a little further along, you get to Taku Park is a really fun place where families like to have picnics and kind of walk around the lake.
Along the creek, I met up with Sherry Northen, the executive director of the Anchorage Waterways Council. We talked about water quality and what it takes to keep waterways clean in Alaska. She recommended keeping your face, eyes, and mouth out of the river and doing a thorough rinse of gear after floating the creek.
Everything's a watershed here. So if you see all those storm drains along the roads, the streets, each of those filters the water that comes in, and it picks up everything that's on the street or in your driveway. So anything that ends up on the ground washes down. It washes down into a waterway untreated. So think about that. If it's left on the ground, it's likely it will end up in a waterway. But I know in my own experience, people are picking up it's better. And that's what we're trying to encourage them to do. It's a good recreational waterway. In it and along it, because with this fantastic trail system that can take you all through Anchorage. And the municipality has done a great job, as I said, of putting out pet waste stations and trash cans. I don't think there are many cities that have anything like this. And I hope people appreciate them. I think that's really important that they appreciate them and they respect them. I'm just in awe of it, actually.
The stretch of Campbell Creek between Taku Lake and Emerald Hills Park can be blocked by trees depending on the year or the season. Campbell Creek Trail parallels the creek, so we recommend walking or riding along the trail first to scout the creek before starting your float. Towards the end of our day, we ran into J.R. Wilcox, a lifelong Alaskan and donor to Anchorage Park Foundation.
Emerald Hills Park is a great park located in a wonderful part of town with a lot of people around it and connectivity to the Campbell Creek Green Belt. 2 coolest things about the park probably are you've got a fishing platform that you can stand on and go fishing for silvers. The other thing is that if you're doing the float trip down Campbell Creek, that's the takeout place. So this is as close as you can get to Campbell Lake and still throw a line in the water. Like I said, one of the things that I think makes Anchorage such a fantastic place to live, and those investments of time and energy and effort in the park, I think just pay back so many times over in terms of what they bring to the community.
Some trail advocates dream of connecting Emerald Hills Park to the very nearby Campbell Creek Trail. Separated by only a few hundred feet, this would give users a convenient place to park when starting and ending their adventures on the trails. At our takeout in Emerald Hills Park, we were able to speak with Brad Muir, the Natural Resource Manager for Anchorage Parks and Recreation.
We have 226 parks, we have about 11,000 acres, and over 250 miles of trail, and that includes asphalt trails, but it also includes a lot of soft surface trails through parks like Far North Bicentennial Park. This is a pretty popular area that's used a lot for both fishing and its proximity to Diamond. And over time, this particular bank and area has been kind of loved to death. So years ago, Youth Employment Parks came and did a bank restoration here, and then the ELP, which is an elevated light penetrating platform, we built on top to protect the restoration site. We mostly see Anchorage through roadways, and to see it from a totally different perspective that winds through the middle of the city is just really unique and kind of special. Being in a town of 300,000 people, but you feel like you're alone in the woods is really phenomenal and a gift for people that enjoy that kind of thing.
Floating Campbell Creek was a blast. Wait for a nice sunny day and get out there and have some fun. Use your common sense, be aware of wildlife, prepare appropriately, and bring a friend along. See you on the trails.